Welcome to Always On CXCX, a show for contact center and IT leaders between helping support your contact center reps, your customers, and the tech that makes a contact center function. You're relied upon quite a lot. Can't afford for your customer experience, agent experience, or stability of the contact center to falter. So in this show, we talk through how you can continuously improve your customer experience, your agent experience, and everything in between. If you're ready to find the next strategy to keep your customer and employee experience always on, let's get into this episode. So today we have Melanie Azagury. She works here at AudioCodes. She has a lot of face time with many departments: product, marketing, sales, customers, executives. She's busy, very ingrained in conversations, especially around AI. And I thought she'd be great to have on the podcast, especially talking about practical uses and practical strategies related to AI based off of what she's hearing. So let's jump into the conversation. Melanie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that we could fit out some time on your busy schedule. You've been traveling a lot. You've been having a lot of conversations. Um, before we kick things off, really, I do want to say stick around to the end because we have a very fun conversation related to gimmicky and practical uses of AI. Not always related to customer experience, but related to all aspects of our life. So stick around for that one. I think we have some good examples for it based off some research that we did in good old Reddit. Can always find gold in there. But to kick us off, I did hear that you had some time at an event recently called Enterprise Connect AI. Just wanted to really catch up on that and see if you could maybe give us a quick brief on maybe some conversations that you had. What were good presentations that you went to? What did you notice in some booths? Anything you want to add to it?
Yeah, awesome. So it was a great experience. It's actually the first time that the organizers of Enterprise Connect decided to host an event focused on AI and on the West Coast, which is where I'm based too. So that was a nice short flight for me too. But it was cool to see, first of all, coming from a marketing background, that, I always look at the organization. It's exciting to have a new event in the industry. See our local, vendors and folks that we're seeing on the event circuit with us. So that was nice. All of our partners were there. It was honestly amazing content. To have it hyper focused on AI and to hear how everyone is, their take on it. Everyone's got a take on it, right? So to hear all the different takes. To hear how they're utilizing it, from strategy to practical applications of it, to the niche applications of it too, in the specific verticals and in various industries. And then just chatting between, you have everything from end customers to analysts to partners there, and being able to hear everyone's opinions and their conversations, especially. There's only so much you can get when you're reading things online, but when you're actually in the field talking to everyone and understanding, it's difficult to navigate your way through those conversations right now because you're flooded with information. So having those conversations at an event like that was super awesome to be able to be part of that and just kind of gather in one place and just speak to it.
Yeah, it's nice. So it was focused on just one specific part of Enterprise Connect, talking a lot about customer experience and just technology within the business space, but to have it really focused on AI, it's such a hot topic right now.
Right.
Yeah, awesome. Well, glad you got to go to that event and enjoy it. Sounds like a good one. I'm sure they'll probably have it again next year, unless AI takes over. I'm just kidding. No, it'll probably be again next year. So it'll be exciting to see how things grow over the next year until that next event.
Definitely.
Speaking of AI, obviously that's our conversation today. I wanted to jump into a part around the adoption of AI. It feels like the adoption of AI is really like an up and to the right curve, but I don't know, maybe based off of some conversations that you had or what you're seeing in the market, is that true? What's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, this is just so relevant to discuss, especially for me coming back from that event. But also, I did have a small speaking slot there talking about practical applications of it, and being able to speak to customers. And as I was thinking about that conversation, I was thinking about how it does really feel similar to how the adoption of AI is very similar to like the dot-com boom, where they are trending in the same way, in terms of kind of taking over and being this new technology that's just, it's ubiquitous, right? It's just completely taking over everything. But I will say, like, when I was thinking about the actual practical application of it, I realized that while maybe the sense of urgency is there and the excitement is there, and that's similar with those two movements, the real difference is how the adoption is taking place. With the dot-com boom, you're definitely, there was some sort of slow progression because no one really knew how to use it. What's the best way to use it? How do you research it? Whereas with AI, obviously we're using the internet too, so the research is just flooding us. And not only are you able to read all about it, you can get your hands dirty so quickly. Anyone can go into any application of AI, test it out, see how they want to use it in honestly any capacity. But the question is, what do you do from there, right? Great, you've got the access to the tools, you've got access to the research. Now what? And that's really, I think, what's interesting about this trend that we're seeing. So the adoption is definitely there, but there's a lot of challenges with it. There's a lot of shifts in the market. And I think that's part of kind of where we're at now, of what we're seeing. Are we plateauing in a certain way?
Yeah, absolutely. Is it stagnant? One thing that came to mind with that is like we all saw how Chat GPT like really took it off because it became something that was so. It's not like there was no AI before that, but it came out to just like the everyday consumer being able to use it to get like an instant response from essentially a chat bot with a lot of data behind it. Um, and now it also feels like kind of like that bell curve, or maybe it's more of like it was up and it like really took off, and then now we're staying
Mhm.
at a steady pace of it's not growing as fast as it was in the beginning because, like you said, we have like that we could use ChatGPT in a lot of everyday aspects of our life of answering questions. But what about like in our work life? What can AI be applied to that is actually usable and changes the way that I work? And I know you had some thoughts on that, and specifically, I think the first thought you had was more so related to like meetings. Those are things that everyone has. Well, at least most people have meetings in their day every single day. There's a lot of information that's shared there. They take a large portion of the day, but you know, there's a major uptick of AI for meetings or applications of AI for meetings that we're seeing, especially within teams. But what does that look like for you?
I mean, this is like a topic I'm so passionate about because I am one of those people that loves adopting new technology and trying to find ways to be more efficient. You and I
Mhm.
know, have definitely spoken about, project management tools and how to incorporate that, and um, finding ways to automate, your everyday time-consuming tasks. And meetings, I think that's just like, so relevant for all of us. We're just constantly in meetings all day long. I'm in a role that I support teams globally. Obviously, I can't be up 24 hours a day as much as I'd like to. It's not possible. So, how can I be part of meetings that took place in a different time zone, while still being able to adapt quickly to what was said in that meeting, the outcomes of that meeting? And so, you've got hearing it, you've got what are the action items and what are the decisions that were made, and then how do I react to it? So, yeah, I'm loving all the tools that are out there where it's just a matter of whether it's listening back on the meeting, having this kind of like repository of every meeting. And then
Mhm.
my favorite tool is the ability to get the summarization. So yeah, I missed the meeting, but I also don't have time to have the meeting again, right? I don't have the 30 minutes or the hour-long meeting where I can sit and there's only so much I can do. So just give me what I need to know. So that's
Mhm.
a really cool application I like, which is like this email summary, or opening up the tool and highlighting this like specific parts of, I only want to hear what Josh said, and being able to go straight to that. I'm honestly like loving that part of it. I have to say, like, it's one of those things that once you use it, there's no going back. It's like, how did I live my life without it? So that's been
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, I know we're both users of that type of AI in our meetings, and it's really hard to go back to a place a couple years ago where you're sitting on a meeting and have a notebook next to you or your notes app open and you're typing in notes related to the meeting that's taking place, and you're actually like have a template for action items, who's responsible for what, and you're writing those things down, or you're even ending the meeting with like, all right, let's end this meeting with who's responsible for what by what date, who's taking, and be like, hey, hey Joe, can you take those notes for us and pass them out to everyone after the call? Like, thank God we don't have
Yeah.
to do that anymore. Because I remember that
I
with
mean,
like,
don't
all
get
right.
me wrong, like, I absolutely still use my notebook and I still write notes, but I think what the difference is that we can collaborate, like my notes and your
Mhm.
notes might be different, which is what I really like, that, have this tool that's kind of like summarizing everything, but I've got my own little notes too. So it's not supposed to necessarily take away everything completely, but it
Yeah.
offers a new way of collaborating or being more efficient.
Yeah, or even focusing more on the conversation too. That's what I found to be really helpful with it. Of
Totally.
like, you know, you'd have to like stop the conversation. Hold on, let me. What did you say 10 minutes ago about the results from this? And not having to do that anymore. Rather, like, oh, I'll have a bullet point on that when we're done the call, and I'll remember it. Um, that's been super helpful from the way that I've used it as well. But yeah, I mean, there's so many different tools out there used in so many different ways. Sometimes it's for for like the individual and someone just using it on their own. Maybe they work by themselves and they still have a lot of client calls, and it's helpful for their own memory. But then um, I know there's some that are out there that are specific to companies. Of like it's
Right.
something where all meetings in the company are in one place, and it makes it easier for people who have departmental or jobs that are working across departments. They can kind of have a look into what's going on across the industry or across the company.
Mhm.
Um, I got a little ahead of myself here. So I know we jumped right into AI and meetings, but I did, back to what we were talking about on the adoption of AI. I wanted to follow up on that question with, what comes with adoption is when do I adopt it? Why should I? It's very complex. It can be challenging. How we talk to the point of like, how do I actually use it in my everyday life? And there seems to be a lot of challenges and complexities around the adoption of AI. So I wanted to ask, what are you seeing related to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is gonna resonate with a lot of people because they're getting this, top-down approach within the enterprise, where, a CTO comes in or the board of directors comes in, and they're like, "How are you using AI? How are you making things more efficient? How are you saving money?" But there's so much out there, as we spoke about, right? It's like, where do you begin? It's not even a matter of where do you begin, of which you have to understand which technology of AI you're using, right? What are you using? Conversational AI? Like, what does that mean? Also, which teams should adopt it first? What type of applications are best used for it? How do you integrate it into your existing tech stack where it's not like fragmenting, potentially a fragmented system you already have? So it's taking in all that information. That's the number one challenge, I think, is understanding, how do I make my way through all of this new exciting technology, but understanding how I can actually bring it in, obviously save money, make things more efficient without, changing the habits of all the users, whether it's the customers or whether it's employees, whatever that looks like, where you're not adding additional work to everyone. And honestly, like keeping up with all the terminology and all of the like the terms that are out there right now, like Gen AI versus conversational AI, is it Chat GPT? Like which one makes sense to me? And I think like something that I like about these events, for example, that we go to is the customers can come and it helps them make sense of all that information. They can speak to different experts, different vendors, hear what they have to say all in one place instead of, doing endless amounts of research and being able to have practical conversations of like takeaways and then you're able to see a demo, of course, understand how it fits into your tech stack. I think that's, you have this huge amount of information and making sense of it is a really difficult task.
Yeah, definitely. You talked a little bit about fragmented tech. Um, Maybe you've had some conversations around um, how are people or buyers or people who are listening to this, what approach should they go? Do they continue to just add over time next to something like Microsoft Teams? I know that's what we're talking about today. Or is it adding on top of? And how would you vet to add on top of? Like, how would you vet a solution to add on top of something like Microsoft Teams?
Yeah, so you're asking a question I'm sure so many people are asking. It used to be where when you had things on premise, you had to add on, right? You had to find these additional solutions and find a way for all of them to work. Now that everything's in the cloud and we're moving to UC, it's kind of just what APIs speak together. But more than
Mhm.
that, you could have APIs speak to each other. You could have things that naturally or partnerships between companies. But when you find solutions that have AI built into them, where they are literally creating the product or solution based on the technology, I think that's the best place to start, where it's native to something like Microsoft Teams, where it was built with Teams in mind and understanding the technology on Azure or whatever the technology is. That's probably going to give you the most seamless experience. I
Mhm.
think that's where you have a little bit more confidence because you're not just bringing in this additional company, but it's built on the platform that you are building your entire company on, which is Teams, right? Microsoft is gonna you're using it across everything, so being able to be built on that is definitely giving you a sense of confidence.
Yeah.
And I think that allows you to avoid also companies that are saying sometimes that they're using technology, but really what they're using is a third party service or a
Mhm.
third party technology. And so if something breaks on the third party technology, it's going to break on theirs. It's not really one source of truth, right? So it does add a little bit more complexity when you go down that path.
Yeah. I know we've had Giddy on this show a few times. He was in a recent episode, and one thing he spoke about was it's worth in trusting and investing the largest company in the world, aka Microsoft.
Right.
They have a lot of really smart people. They have a large budget, and they seem to know what they're doing. So it's worth investing in and worth trusting what they're doing. That every now and then they may have some gaps, but typically there's somewhere or somebody filling in that gap that's still
Yeah.
very deeply tied into Microsoft.
They are also on the frontier of AI, right? The amount of
Yeah.
money and time they're investing in I mean, they're leading it, right? So yeah,
Mhm.
it's another sense of kind of confidence. At the end of the day, we are talking about a very new technology that's going to change, and there's going to be some flexibility there. But knowing that there is a company like that that is kind of doing the work for us and guiding us on that in that way, it does feel a little bit more intuitive and native to go down that path.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so we talked about AI within Microsoft Teams meetings and using that to help, um, pay attention more to the conversation and to help with summaries when you're double booked. I know that's a difficult challenge for a lot of people are in leadership or have a lot of meetings on the calendar. But I want to move now over to the customer experience side associated with Microsoft Teams and AI. What are you seeing? How are you seeing AI being used within customer interactions and also with customer service agents?
So definitely an interesting question. It came up actually at the event as well, where had this kind of consultant come and ask pretty much that question, where they were trying to understand from, let's say, an IT contact center director that is given this task to bring in AI. What should they
Mhm.
focus on in the contact center space? There's so much technology out there. That's honestly really exciting because it every little thing now makes a difference in saving time and reducing costs when you bring that in, because there's a lot of space there where you can make a difference. And so the challenge is, how should you focus on the customer experience? Should you focus on the agent experience? Should you focus on
Mhm.
both? So these are questions that are being asked, and some technologies offer everything. Sometimes you need to prioritize what that looks like. And there are a couple applications of how you can like just very quickly implement AI in this space that would affect agents and positively affect agents, and also positively impact the customers too, where you're not totally changing their experience and the behavior, but just really just providing more of a comprehensive experience.
Mhm.
So there's something like on the agent side, when a call comes in, and it's like, honestly, sometimes the agents are not even affected by it, but it just makes the whole experience, it just cleans up that process. So the flow of the calls, when someone calls in and speaks to what they want, right, and they say out loud what their request is, how does the technology, or how is AI used there, where we are making sure that the call flow, the way it's routed and the way that call flow is designed, is a more like seamless process, where it's inputting the information, understanding it, which is key here. It's not just
Mhm.
taking it and outputting it, it's understanding what is being said, and what you can do with that information, whether it's pushing accurate information into a CRM, whether it's sending it to the right, or routing it to the right agent, maybe a specific subject matter expert, not just any agent. Maybe
Mhm.
you understand that there's some anger, frustration coming in, and they said certain keywords, or they freely spoke some each company has their own way of saying certain things. Maybe they use an acronym that's known only in your company, or
Mhm.
only in your industry. Taking that information, processing it, understanding it, and then making a decision with that information to route it, so that way you can just get on with business, right? Be able to speak directly to that.
Mhm.
That's just one example, but then you have, of course, things like agent insights that can help with wrap up time, understanding quickly what is being said, deciding how you're going to package that information, and being able to provide that not just to the agent, but to others as well in the company that's needed. And one of my favorite things is really like understanding when you're saying something like, when a customer is speaking and they're saying a customer ID, for example, like 1234, how is AI understanding that that's digits, understanding that it has to be 1234, or is it going to understand that it needs to take the spelling of it, so ONE for one, and inputting that with the right CRM, right? For example, a certain CRM will only accept this is digits. So
Mhm.
it's acting as like the understanding piece of it, and where the experience for the customer automatically improves, right? Because they're like, I said what I want and I got what I came for immediately, because it was routed in the right way and the information was accepted in the right way. And then you have, for the agent experience, they're like, let me take as many calls as I can, get accurate information. And I have to say, the one most interesting piece that I heard at the event was what it's doing when you include AI in that contact center experience. It's allowing the agents to spend more time selling. Contact centers used to be a cost center. It can now
Mhm.
be a center that provides revenue, because they're able to make quick decisions, and then think, how do I upsell? I have 5 extra minutes. I have 2 extra minutes on this call. What can I do with those 2 extra minutes? And that's what I find
Mhm.
really exciting.
Yeah, especially when that agent is finding out, is being told also when it maybe something related to sentiment analysis, like, hey, this customer came in, I was able to, their problem was solved very quickly. So they seem to be in a better mood. And now might be a good time to also upsell or cross sell in
Yeah.
some way. Also, like, I guess this wouldn't be as AI related, but when an agent has the information they need to be able to actually make that upsell, like
Hmm.
data as far as maybe someone's contract is coming to an end, how would they know to upsell if they didn't know that information? Um, Sales is a lot of times related on timing. So if you have information on that timing, it's very helpful too. Um, these are some great points. I know you talked a lot about um, what I heard was more so like, I guess if we're going to talk technical AI, it'd be natural language understanding. Yeah. Versus when a customer is speaking and I guess a conversational IVR is taking in that information, or the IVR starts a conversation of how may I help you today, and then the customer speaks in, um, versus I believe DTMF IVR, right? Where that would be more,
Yeah.
or I guess the other word is touch tone. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's exactly right. I mean, it's a different experience, right? I think most of us, let's say millennials and older, are used to just pressing buttons, which still exists, of course, but it's a different experience when you get welcomed with "How may I help you?" and you just like say what you want, right? Like you're not bound by numbers 1 through 10 on your phone, and like a certain menu that is pushing you in a certain direction. You could just say what you want and just speed up the process. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's exactly right. It's using the conversational AI piece of it.
I love that. I wanted to maybe ask a little bit about, you talked a lot about the customer experience from, the IVR portion of things, as well as the agent experience from how they're seeing it within their own application that they're using every day. What about someone? What about the person in IT, the supervisor, the person who's responsible for setting up the technology on the back end? What what would that typically look like for someone in that position? How practical is setting up AI within the contact center? Where how do they know which AI application to use?
Right. I mean, I think this is one of the challenges. It's kind of compounding what we were talking about, which is, first doing the research. How do you make your way through that research? And then maybe when you narrow it down, how do you decide which one is the best one? But then at the end of the day, like, how do you know where the AI is going to be implemented in, and where is it actually saving time? Like understanding where the ROI is, or honestly not even the ROI, but really just how is it going to impact you from a technology piece. And I think that's where it goes back to choosing the tools, and even partners, making sure partners that are coming experienced and guiding you, they have that knowledge of, whether you're deciding when it comes to teams, you've got, I'm sure, so many opportunities to bring in AI, but you want to find something that's native, that includes the technology already, that's already utilizing it, it is built on it, and then it could impact different ways. It's kind of like you want something flexible that will be able to implement teams as you need, right? So a tool that is easily adaptable and can take on AI as it comes. So maybe your current application right now is the conversational piece of, speaking freely, and or changing it to be conversational IVR instead of DTMF. But then
Hmm.
maybe after, you want to think about, how do I bring in omni-channel? Like, you almost have to think about the practical application, but also what are the practical applications for the future. So choosing a software that's going to adapt quickly to those changes in the market, or maybe they exist, but you're not ready to take it on, but something that is kind of built in with all of that, I think that's a good place to start. So not taking the, specific niche example that you need, but maybe finding something that's a bit more robust, and using, a couple of the features, but know that it's going to grow with you and grow with your needs.
Yeah, that reminds me of something John Zulte said. He's been on the show a couple times and was talking about, where do you start? This is more so related to a contact center and talking about voice versus web chat versus email. How do you know where to start? Should you do it all at once? And the answer was no. You shouldn't implement every new thing that you have all at once, because then you're going to spread yourself really thin, and there's a chance that everything is going to be on a mediocre level, versus focus on one thing at a time. Maybe it's focus on the agent experience first from an AI perspective. Get that right ahead of using it more in the customer experience. Agent experience, there's a little bit less risk there. It is behind the scenes. It's for the agent. The customer doesn't even know that the agent is using any type of AI, other than, this call may be recorded for training purposes and things of that nature, making the customer aware of that information. But when an agent is using call summary or wrap up or something on the back end, get that right the first time, or maybe not the first time, but over time, get it right and get
Yeah.
it to a place that it's actually beneficial and used by the agent and used by, you as a contact center manager, and then progress to the next thing. And it was the same for what John was saying of like, get your voice channel right first. Make sure you have a handle on your IVR. Make sure you have a handle on being able to update your IVR continuously and over time as things change throughout the business. And then maybe move into email and then get that right. And then move into web chat. And it's a progression, rather than having to do everything at once. I like what you said, like, AI is just going to grow. It's just going to get better. Use the thing that's great right now and wait until maybe, say, chatbots, when you have a more robust FAQ section. Wait till your FAQs are fully built out and chatbots are even better, and then implement it, rather than having to do it right now.
Yeah.
So I think you
A piece of
guys,
advice I'd like to give is also the ability to be able to do a free trial, right? Do a POC, see how it works in your environment. Like you're saying, there's a lot that could be included. So it's the where do I start is a big question. Well, start with a POC, see how to land a call, see what it looks like for your agent, see what it looks like from the customer experience. Play around with it too, right? Especially in the IT world, like, there is some risk to taking on a tool that's totally going to change how you do business. What we're trying to do here is mitigate risks. You're already using Teams. That's why we recommend using a Teams application, a Teams native one. So that's one risk you can mitigate. Building on the fact that it's a tool that includes the technology, another way to mitigate the risk. But then demoing it, doing a free trial, seeing it in your environment, I think will give you the confidence you need, and not just trusting that it's going to work.
yeah, absolutely. Yes, definitely. That seems to be, becoming more of a standard thing, but um, yeah, make sure you can get it for free first before putting too much investment into it. um, all right, I want to jump into a little bit more of fun and silly part of this conversation, and that is around, we've talked a little bit about practical uses of AI, but want to jump into some things also stretching outside of customer experience a little bit. Um, Although I think we have some examples here related to customer experience, but also some of the gimmicky and funny and silly and dehumanizing uses of AI that we're seeing happening in our everyday life. I'm going to kick things off here. I'm going to say a gimmicky one and a practical one, and then I'll pass it over to Melanie. And I think we each have three related to this. But one thing I saw when I was doing some research on this is from a gimmicky standpoint, AI and enhanced water. Um, that one made my eyebrows raise. I was like, what in the world? AI enhanced water. So I looked it up a little bit, and the definition had something to do around like the way the water is constructed and the different elements within the water. When you drink it, it knows how to hydrate you in a specific way. And that's there's no way. I don't know if I want to drink that water because I don't know what's in it. But that one was really silly. But a practical one that I saw and is cool, and I think it's actually been around for a little while, is translator earbuds. So you have earbuds in right now, but say I was speaking a different language, I wasn't speaking English. Say I was speaking Spanish, Hebrew, I don't know, something like that, German, and I'm speaking in that other language, and you have a setting within your translator earbuds that's translating my German into English for you. I thought that was pretty cool. I don't know if both sets of people need to have those earbuds in. I would imagine they probably do. So maybe if you're traveling, you need to have a second pair with you. Make sure they're clean from each person you speak with. Um, but yeah, I thought that was a cool one. What do you have?
Yeah, I mean, I will say if you didn't tell me the AI enhanced water was a gimmick, I honestly think I would have believed you. Like the other day, I was in the grocery store and you're walking by like the bottled water, aisle, and or just like the types of drinks that they have there. Just I cannot keep up. It's like half the store is just dedicated to that. So like you might be saying gimmick now, but let's check in a couple of years. Might be a different scenario.
Yeah, right.
Love the translator earbuds. Would love a pair. I think what we were talking about before about being able to freely speak. I
Mhm.
think when you are native to different languages, you just want to be able to say whatever you want, and then someone will
Mhm.
understand you. So love
Yeah.
that. Well, here's mine. I mean, what are your thoughts on these? So for the gimmick, you've got facial recognition on a fridge, not able to open it until it
Oh my gosh.
recognizes your face.
Well,
And
I could not imagine that. You
well, it
imagine you're
might
really
stop,
hungry and you're like,
the
"What the heck?"
yeah,
That's a good one.
yeah. I'm trying
Wait,
to understand like the use case for that, but that's might make sense in certain families.
that's true, yeah. Got some really hungry kids. You're like, "You're eating us through house and home. We've locked your facial
Yeah,
recognition from the fridge."
it's like now becomes a vault, like it's safety for the fridge.
Oh, it's so true. That's a good one. Alright, what's your, practical one?
All right, and for practical, honestly, this one I love. So for waste management, how are we using AI in waste management? I think
Hmm,
the practical use that I was seeing was being able to now sort through trash. I read an article years ago where even when you're putting things in recycling, you don't know if it's actually being recycled because all the plastics are mixed in together and they need a different way to compost. And I think
yeah.
being able to have AI sort through it, so not that we should still be recycling, of course, but even when it's thrown in there, how can AI understand what type of plastic it is and where it should go? That to me is like game changer. Like, let's roll that out immediately. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a cool one. I'm almost surprised that's not a thing yet. Of being able to, I don't know, use a scale in a certain way, or maybe a camera feed that is able to pick up like what type of trash it is and being able to sort it quickly. That would be a cool one. That has to come around soon, I would imagine. All right, I got
Yeah.
another gimmicky one, and that is calling automation AI. Um, Automation has obviously been around for a long time, and just rebranding automation and calling it AI. I've seen that plenty of times. Um, that's pretty hilarious because it feels like someone's just kind of trying to ride the wave of that one. So automation is automation; it's not AI. AI can obviously help in automation, but that's not what it is. All right, my practical one is feeding data to AI and asking for trends and correlations within that data. So This is coming from me, someone who is not great at Excel, did not pay enough attention during math class in any level of my education degrees. But AI, feeding data to AI to be able to help you find a trend within the data, practical use for me.
Love it.
What
Yeah,
about you?
that's practical use for me as well. And for my section here, I've got a little theme for the next two. So the gimmick would be, and it exists, but I don't know if you saw in the news recently that Tesla now has this humanoid, which just the word humanoid, I mean, we could probably have a podcast episode just on that. But it's going to automate your everyday tasks. And I read that it literally can walk your
Oh,
dog.
oh
That's
my
the
goodness.
gimmick. That's a scary gimmick, but that's what we're seeing. And then the practical of the humanoid aspect is I saw that actually BMW announced a humanoid that is taking on tasks of the more riskier, dangerous parts of building a car. So I know there's a lot
Hmm.
of thoughts around that, you know, in terms of like what we're seeing is replacing, you know, people to a certain extent, but you know, manufacturing is one of the more dangerous jobs, being on a plant. And if a humanoid can take on something like that, um, yeah, I mean, that seems like a good use case for it.
Yeah. Yeah, those are interesting ones. Um, yeah, the Tesla humanoid, that one is reminds me of iRobot. And we all know
Right.
how that movie ended. Uh, but the
Spoiler
humanoid
alert.
for we already know how this ends. The BMW one is interesting too. I looked up I've heard about that one before too. I live in upstate South Carolina, not far from Spartanburg. I have buddies that work at that plant. They told me about it. It's pretty interesting. But I also have mixed opinions too of like, um, it does seem like one of those. I mean, we've already seen robots within manufacturing, replacing some jobs. And to what extent does it go? But it definitely has a practical use of making the workplace safer for sure. Yeah, so mixed opinions on that.
Mhm.
All right, the final ones. I have my last gimmicky one is using, and these are more tied to our topic today, especially around customer experience. But using AI chatbots to respond to negative customer reviews. This is very much a thing. This is also, hey, my personal opinion that if a customer is upset and they're voicing that over a review site that they're upset or they're having an issue with something, I think the last thing they want is getting an automated response. It's probably not going to aid in diminishing anger in any way. It's probably going to add to it. So, in my opinion, I think that's a gimmicky way of uh, not making the customer experience better. And practical use, you mentioned this earlier, and something we talked about, is natural language understanding to route calls to the right department. I feel, a great use for it, especially, hey, someone's driving, and you don't want people to be, as much as people do, type around on their phone and watch videos while they're driving. Um, but giving them the opportunity, a customer the opportunity to say what they need or say the department that they want or voice the issue that they're having freely to be able to be routed to the right agent or department, I think is a very practical and good use of AI. All right, last one's for
Yeah,
you. Let's
totally. All right, so hope you're sitting for this one, and I'm putting a disclaimer out there. I don't want to offend the cat community, but this is real. I read this. Okay, there's something called Meow Talk, which is an AI-powered cat translator app. I'm not kidding. That
oh
was
my gosh.
downloaded more than 22 million times since 2020. We all know what happened in 2020. And I
Yeah.
just want to say this AI powered program is trained to bring in a broad data set of cat vocalizations, and it
Oh man.
analyzes the cat meows and equates it to the sound of human language. So that's the gimmick. I mean, it's 22
Oh
million
my
people are
goodness.
using it. Maybe not, in the best way possible. I don't know what they're getting out of it, but it's out there.
Oh, that's good. I gotta look that up
Um,
later. I'm not a cat
yeah,
owner, but it still seems quite entertaining to me. Maybe I should test it on our dog, see if it translates.
yeah. Maybe I'm being judgmental too because it's not for dogs. Maybe if it was for dogs also, then I would be, downloading that app immediately. But now the
True.
practical one I have is AI used in investing or in banking, and being able to recommend guidance on financial guidance based on your spending behavior, based on your goals,
Hmm.
kind of like robo advisors. And I like
Mhm.
that application because I think it allows everyday people to have access to a financial advisor, using data, and then they can make the decision, and it's not an overwhelming task of going to the bank thinking you need some sort of like wealth advisor, but kind of being able to guide you in financial decisions. But of course, like everything, there's risk to that as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that's something that could also pull probably from a pretty large data set. And that obviously aids in making those types of AI tools a lot better. That's a good one. Interesting. Cool. Well, Melanie, thank you so much for joining us today. You have a lot of knowledge related to this topic. I know you have many conversations around AI and the practical use of it. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Loved being on here. Love the podcast. And yeah, it was a great conversation.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you so much. So, thank you everyone for listening to this episode of Always on CXCX. If you got one thing you can use to improve your customer and employee experience, we'd appreciate if you'd subscribe and tell us what you thought of the episode. If you are interested in improving your customer experience by using a Microsoft Teams contact center, consider trying Voca for free for 30 days. Just voted the best Microsoft Teams contact center by CX Today, Voca brings to Teams the most critical contact center features for providing great customer service on the main service desk and departments beyond the contact center without the hefty price tag or nice to haves. Just Google AudioCodes Voca. You'll find the link in the show notes. Thank you again for joining us for this episode of Always on CXEX. See you in the next one.